All right, let's talk about control. Now, I know that word can sound a little intense, but really, at its core, it's all about one simple, incredibly powerful idea. What gets measured? Well, that's what gets done. It's the secret sauce for how you, me, and even massive organizations actually achieve their goals. So, let me start with a famous story. Picture this, your little kid, maybe 4 or 5 years old. A researcher puts a marshmallow right in front of you, a delicious, fluffy marshmallow. And they say, you can eat this right now. But if you can wait just a few minutes all by yourself without eating it, you'll get a second one. So, what do? This, of course, is the legendary marshmallow test.
But here's where it gets really fascinating. This wasn't just about candy. Researchers tracked these kids down, get this, 40 years later. And they found that the ones who waited for that second marshmallow, they had higher SAT scores, better GPAs in college, and they even earned more money. That tiny act of self-control as a kid was a huge predictor of success later in life.
Okay, so it's one thing for one person to resist a marshmallow, but how does a giant company with thousands of employees and a million moving parts practice that same kind of collective discipline? How do they all agree to wait for the second marshmallow together?
Well, they do it using a framework that's surprisingly simple but incredibly powerful. You can think of it like the operating system for getting things done in a company. It's the 4-step control process. This is the playbook. And it's basically a loop that just keeps going. Step 1, you figure out what you're trying to do. You set your goals. Step 2, you measure what's actually happening. Step 3, you compare the two. Where are we versus where we said we wanted to be? And finally, step 4, you take action to close that gap. Then you do it all over again.
The whole thing, the entire process, is built on this one core belief. It's a classic saying for a reason. What gets measured tends to happen. Simple as that. The moment you start tracking something, sales, errors, customer happiness, people naturally start focusing on it. Measurement creates focus.
Now, when you're measuring things, you're usually looking at one of two buckets. First, you've got input standards. This is about the effort going in. Are people following the rules? Did they attend the training? Then you have output standards, and this is all about the results. What were the sales numbers? How many errors do we have? Or in the case of a world-class orchestra, how many standing ovations did they get? Both are super important.
Now, you might think control is just something that happens at the end of a project, right? Like a final grade. But the best organizations don't wait. They apply control at every single stage of the game, before they start, while they're in the thick of it, and after it's all done.
You can kind of visualize it on a timeline. Right at the beginning, with your inputs, you use what's called feedforward control. This is all about preventing problems before they even have a chance to start. Then, in the middle, during the actual work, you use concurrent control to fix problems as they pop up. And finally, at the end, looking at the output, you use feedback control to learn from what went right or wrong.
And here's a super simple way to remember it. Just think about a chef. Feed-forward control, that's the chef checking to make sure all the ingredients are fresh before they even start cooking. Concurrent control is tasting the sauce while it's simmering, adding a pinch of salt right there on the spot. And feedback control, that's asking you how the meal was so they can make the next one even better.
Okay, so we know when control happens, but where does it actually come from? Well, the pressure to get things done really comes from two different directions, from the outside in or from the inside out.
On one side, you have internal control. That's the marshmallow test all over again. It's you showing up and doing a great job because you're motivated and you take pride in your work. It's self-discipline. On the other side, you have external control. That's your boss looking over your shoulder, or the thick company policy manual, or the annual budget.
And that external control comes in a few different flavors. You've got your classic bureaucratic control. That's the formal hierarchy, the rules, the procedures. Then there's clan control, which is way more subtle. It's the culture of your team, the peer pressure that keeps everyone pulling in the same direction. And finally, there's market control, the ultimate external force. Think about it. When your biggest competitor slashes their prices, that immediately controls what your company does next. So how do managers actually make all this happen? Well, they have a whole toolkit filled with some really powerful techniques to measure and control performance. Let's look at a few of the big ones. So what's with this number, 3.4? What on earth could that mean? Well, if your company uses the Six Sigma quality program, that's the number of defects you're allowed to have per million. Let that sink in, per million.
That's a perfection rate of 99.9997%. It just shows you the insane level of precision that modern control systems are aiming for. All right, here's another essential tool, the break-even point. This is that magic number. It's the exact moment where you stop losing money and start making it. For any manager thinking about launching a new product, this is one of the first things they have to figure out.
And this is how they find it. Now, the formula looks pretty simple, right? But don't let that fool you. This little equation is a powerhouse. It lets managers play out all these what-if scenarios. What if our costs go up? What if we lower the price? It lets them control for a whole bunch of different financial futures.
But smart control isn't just about the money. Modern approaches, like the balanced scorecard, take a full 360-degree view of the organization. They ask 4 huge questions. Financially, how do shareholders see us? From the customer's view, how do they see us? Internally, what processes do we have to be amazing at? And looking forward, how can we keep learning and innovating? It makes sure you're measuring the health of the entire organization, not just the bank account.
Okay, so this is all great for huge companies, but what does any of this have to do with you? Well, it turns out this whole corporate framework is actually one of the best tools you can use to manage your own life and your own career. We've all known someone like this, right? A friend or a colleague who just feels adrift. They're not excited about their career, they just feel kind of lost. Well, that same 4-step process we just talked about, it can be the exact map they need to find their way again.
Look how perfectly it applies to you. Step 1, set your own career goals. What do you really want? Step 2, measure your progress. Where are you right now, honestly? Step 3, compare the two and identify the gap. And step 4, take real, concrete action to close that gap. Maybe that's learning a new skill, or networking, or even finding a new job. Because it all comes back to this one simple truth. If you feel like you're drifting, it's almost certainly because you're not measuring anything. You haven't clearly defined what success looks like for you. The minute you start tracking your progress toward a goal, you start making progress.
So in a world that is basically designed to distract us 24/7, these ideas are more important than ever. I'll just leave you with this to think about. What are you actively measuring in your own life? And what is that second marshmallow that you're willing to work for and wait for?